Thursday, July 7, 2005, 8:49:43. London Underground, Piccadilly Line train departed King's Cross. Carriage 3, packed with morning commuters. 18 seconds into the tunnel, the explosion tore through metal and flesh. Simultaneously, Circle Line between Liverpool Street and Aldgate. Another Circle Line, westbound from Edgware Road. 3 underground explosions within 50 seconds. Initial reports, power surge. The pattern suggested otherwise. 9:47:00, Tavistock Square, number 30, bus, upper deck, stationary in traffic, 4th explosion, roof blown off. 13 lost their lives instantly. By 10 o'clock, confirmation reached command centers. Coordinated attacks, 4 locations, 4 devices, 4 perpetrators. 52 civilians lost their lives. Over 700 were injured. Britain's most devastating assault since Lockerbie 1988. So how did 4 British-Pakistani citizens, born and raised in England, plan and execute the most coordinated and destructive attack on British soil in the 21st century? Mohammed Sadiq Khan, born October 20th, 1974, Beeston, Leeds. Khan grew up in working-class Pakistani immigrant community. Father ran takeaway restaurant, attended local schools, played cricket, appeared well integrated. By 2001, qualified as teaching assistant. Employed at Hillside Primary School, Beeston. Worked with children with learning difficulties. Colleagues described him as dedicated, effective, no indication of extremist views. The transformation, 1999 to 2001. Shift began during university years. Khan attended study circles at community centers, gradually attracted to radical interpretations. By 2001, frequented Iqra Islamic Bookshop, Beeston, meeting point for extremists. Discussions focused on grievances, British foreign policy, Western interventions, perceived injustices. Shehzad Tanweer, born December 15, 1982. Bradford, Tanweer from more affluent background. Father owned multiple properties, good student, excelled at sports, enrolled at Leeds Metropolitan University 2001. Sports science, outwardly seemed integrated, drove expensive cars, but radicalization progressed beneath surface. The meeting, 2002. Khan and Tanweer connected through Beeston networks. Khan, 9 years older, became mentor. Relationship deepened rapidly. By 2003, both attended radical gatherings across northern England. Consumed materials justifying violence as religious duty. Jermaine Lindsay, born September 23, 1985. Jamaica, born Jamaica, moved to England aged 5. Converted to Islam as teenager. Took name Abdullah Shahid Jamal. Conversion led toward radical elements. By 2002, connected with Beeston networks. Hasib Hussain, born September 16, 1986. Leeds, youngest of group. Struggled academically. Behavioral issues at school. Suspended multiple times. Sent to Pakistan. Parental attempt to straighten him. Returned 2003. Radicalization accelerated. Khan became father figure. The motive, ideology, and grievance all expressed anger about Western military interventions. Iraq War, starting 2003, became focal point. They consumed propaganda presenting these as war against Islam. Khan articulate about grievances, spoke at meetings, built reputation as committed advocate, but rhetoric crossed from protest to action justification. Materials explicitly encouraged violence against civilians. 2003, warning signs missed. Khan appeared on MI5 radar, photographed at gathering with known extremists. Intercepted communications mentioned him peripherally. Assessment, peripheral figure. Not operational threat, resources allocated elsewhere. Khan's employment, family life, married 2001, daughter born 2004, community standing, all suggested low threat. Assessment catastrophically wrong. 2004, Pakistan training. Late 2003, early 2004, Khan and Tanweer traveled to Pakistan. Official purpose, religious studies. Actual, contact with militant networks, visited training camps in tribal areas, received instruction in explosives, weapons, operational security. Lindsay traveled separately, 2004. Similar training. These trips transformed them from ideologues into operational threats. returned with skills, connections, commitment. But how did they move from training to planning without triggering surveillance? January 2005. Operational decision. Following Pakistan return, Khan convened group. Made decision. Conduct coordinated London attack. Target. Public transportation. Maximum casualties. Symbolic impact. Method. Body-worn explosives. Simultaneous detonation. Suicide operation. February-March 2005. Technical preparation. Khan took leadership. Research phase began. Downloaded instructional materials online. Purchased chemicals gradually from multiple sources. Hydrogen peroxide from beauty supply shops, flour from groceries, other components from hardware stores, small quantities each location, different payment methods, avoided suspicious patterns. Alexandra Grove, bomb factory, Khan rented flat. Official purpose, youth community center. Actual, bomb construction facility. Converted bathroom into workshop. Installed ventilation. March-April. Experimentation. Small-scale tests remotely. Trial batches. Refinement. April 2005. Reconnaissance. Khan and Tanweer conducted London reconnaissance. Traveled by train. Rehearsal. Observed underground stations. Noted security. Identified vulnerable points. Timed journeys. Studied commuter patterns. Multiple trips. Different times. Built comprehensive understanding. May 2005. Material acquisition. Purchased hydrogen peroxide in larger quantities. High concentration. Multiple suppliers across northern England. Khan drove to various locations. Paid cash where possible. False names occasionally. Acquired rucksacks. Standard hiking backpacks. Purchased separately. June 2005. Martyrdom videos. Khan recorded video. Lengthy statement explaining motives. Justifying violence. Tanweer recorded separate video. Similar themes. Videos produced professionally. Indicated technical support from Pakistan training. Late June. Final preparations. Khan intensified bomb making, produced larger batches, refined mechanisms, divided materials into 4 identical devices, packed into rucksacks with shrapnel, nails, bolts. Each device, approximately 10 pounds, hydrogen peroxide-based explosive, detonation mechanisms, simple switches, manual activation, low-tech but reliable. July 3rd to 6th. The countdown, rehearsal journey to London, all 4 together, complete reconnaissance, verified schedules. July 6th. Final preparation at Alexandra Grove. Verified devices functional. Final briefing. Khan reiterated the plan. Travel early on July 7th. Board separate trains at King's Cross. Detonate during rush hour. Sacrifice themselves as martyrs. Each confirmed commitment. Ideological conviction absolute. Could anyone have stopped them? Or had they operated too carefully? July 7th, 2005. Dawn broke quietly across West Yorkshire. The streets of Beeston and Dewsbury lay still under a pale sky. Inside modest brick houses, 4 young men were already awake, moving with purpose, deliberate and silent. 0350. Mohammed Sadiq Khan rose from bed. His wife and daughter still slept. He showered, dressed neatly, and prayed. Before leaving, he placed a note on the table. Short, unreadable to most, but final in tone. His rucksack, heavy and carefully packed, stood by the door. At 4:10, he stepped into the darkness, locked the door, and drove away. Further north, Shehzad Tanweer, a sports enthusiast and university graduate, prepared with the same ritual calm. His father owned a fish and chip shop. His family believed he was on his way to the gym. By 4:30, he too was on the motorway, his car filled with the faint chemical smell of peroxide. Jermaine Lindsay, the youngest, only 19, kissed his pregnant wife goodbye. A convert to Islam from Jamaica, he told her he was meeting friends in London. His accent, soft and calm, carried no hint of the violence ahead. Hasib Hussain, 18, the youngest of all, left his home later. His mother would call his phone throughout the morning, unaware that her son's silence would soon fill news bulletins around the world. 0507. Luton Station. The 4 cars arrived one by one. The men greeted each other like brothers. CCTV footage shows smiles, handshakes, brief laughter. Their rucksacks seemed ordinary, yet each contained nearly 10 pounds of explosives. Hydrogen peroxide mixed with flour and pepper, sealed inside plastic tubs, fitted with detonators from alarm clocks. They locked their vehicles, walked toward the platform, and purchased tickets to King's Cross. No one questioned them. They blended easily. 4 British citizens, calm and polite. 0540. The Thameslink train pulled away from Luton. Outside, the fields turned golden under the rising sun. Inside, the men spoke softly, heads bowed. Some prayed under their breath. Other passengers later recalled the faint scent of chemicals, perhaps from the residue of the homemade bombs. 6:49, King's Cross. They arrived, collected their belongings, and moved through the crowded concourse. Cameras caught every step, 4 figures among hundreds, indistinguishable from commuters. Around 7:20, they paused briefly near the entrance. A brief embrace, a final nod. Then they separated. Each descended into a different tunnel. The final descent. 8:49:43. The first explosion ripped through the Piccadilly line between King's Cross and Russell Square. The blast pressure tore through metal and flesh. The tunnel collapsed in darkness. Survivors described screams, choking smoke, shattered glass. 26 lost their lives instantly or were trapped beyond rescue. 08:49:51, Liverpool Street. 8 seconds later, Tanweer's device exploded in the second carriage of the Circle Line train. Windows shattered outward, and the platform filled with smoke. People stumbled through the dark, using mobile phone lights, searching for exits that no longer existed. 08:49:59, Edgware Road. Lindsay's device detonated in another Circle Line carriage moving westbound. The blast tore a hole between 2 trains, sending debris through the tunnel walls. 7 more lost lives above ground. Chaos began. Signals failed across the network. Trains halted. Thousands of commuters stood stranded, unaware that coordinated bombings were unfolding beneath their feet. Meanwhile, Hasib Hussein surfaced at Euston. His intended route on the Northern Line was closed due to earlier disruptions. CCTV later captured him wandering the concourse, phone in hand, hesitating. He left the station, then re-entered. Finally, he boarded the number 30 double-decker bus, climbing to the upper deck and sitting near the rear window. 9:47:00, Tavistock Square. The bus slowed to a stop in traffic. Hussein shifted his backpack slightly, bent forward, and detonated his device. The explosion tore through the vehicle, sending the roof flying into the air. People on nearby streets ducked instinctively. Smoke, glass, and human remains covered the pavement. Silence followed, a silence that felt unreal. Then came the screams, the sirens, the radios crackling with disbelief. Within minutes, emergency services began the largest peacetime rescue in British history. By 10:15, chaos had spread across the capital. The Metropolitan Police declared a major incident. At first, confusion reigned. Multiple explosions, unclear causes. Early reports suggested power surges on the underground, but eyewitnesses spoke of flash fire, burning plastic, smell of chemicals. Within an hour, it was confirmed. This was no accident. 10:30. Forensic units entered the tunnels. The heat and debris made conditions unbearable. Officers worked by torchlight, crawling through wreckage, collecting fragments of rucksacks and detonators. In the darkness, they found the twisted remains of bodies, victims and bombers alike. By early afternoon, detectives began to piece together clues. Among the debris were driver's licenses, bank cards, and train tickets bearing the same date, same route. It was the first hint of the attackers' identities. Simultaneously, the Prime Minister addressed the nation from Gleneagles, condemning barbaric attacks on innocent people. In London, emergency rooms overflowed. Volunteer doctors and nurses worked without pause. Taxi drivers ferried the wounded when ambulances could not. 1422. In Leeds, officers surrounded a modest semi-detached house on Alexandra Grove. Inside, they found the heart of the operation: peroxide containers, rubber gloves, measuring jugs, nails, wires, bathtubs lined with residue from bomb mixtures, notes in Khan's handwriting outlining formulas and quantities. Bomb disposal teams entered cautiously. Streets were evacuated. The discovery confirmed that the attack had been planned and executed within Britain. Over the next days, police raided properties in Beeston, Dewsbury, and Huddersfield. Families were questioned. All were in shock. Khan's wife wept when told of his death. She had believed he was on a business trip. Between July 8th and 12th, investigators analyzed CCTV from more than 2,500 cameras. The footage traced the bombers' journey with chilling precision, leaving their homes, loading their cars, meeting at Luton, boarding the train, walking calmly through King's Cross. Explosive experts determined the devices used hydrogen peroxide mixed with fuel, a method learned from extremist manuals distributed online and possibly reinforced through overseas training. Evidence showed that Khan and Tanweer had traveled to Pakistan in 2004, spending time in areas known for militant camps. Intelligence sharing with Pakistan confirmed their contact with radical clerics linked to al-Qaeda's ideology. On July 12, MI5 received 2 videos, recorded months before the attack. In them, Khan and Tanweer sat before a black flag, speaking of faith, injustice, and revenge. Their calm, rehearsed tone chilled investigators. Through July and August, hundreds of individuals were questioned. Many knew the men casually: former schoolmates, gym partners, mosque attendees. Few suspected anything. The plot had been tightly held. The bombers avoided phones, emails, or obvious surveillance, relying instead on face-to-face meetings and handwritten notes. By September, the investigation concluded that the 4 acted largely alone. Though inspired by al-Qaeda ideology, they were self-financed, self-directed, and homegrown. In October, the official inquests began. Families of the victims gathered in London courtrooms, demanding answers. The verdict: all 52 victims were unlawfully deprived of their lives. The blame lay solely with the 4 attackers. But questions remained. Could MI5 have done more? Khan had been mentioned in earlier investigations into radical circles in 2003. At the time, he was judged a peripheral figure. In hindsight, that judgment haunted intelligence officials. By the end of 2005, the investigation had produced a full narrative: the quiet radicalization of 4 ordinary men, their secret preparations, and the tragic morning when they changed Britain forever. In the days after, London was silent. Flowers covered every underground entrance. Posters filled with faces of the missing fluttered in the wind. Funerals began almost immediately. Churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples all opened their doors. The nation mourned together. The government responded with speed and force. A new strategy, Prevent, was launched to identify and counter radicalization in communities, schools, and prisons. Over the next year, more than 300 projects were funded, targeting young people at risk of extremist influence. Intelligence agencies underwent reorganization. MI5 expanded surveillance units, introduced digital tracking programs, and deepened cooperation with international partners. From 2006 to 2008, its staff grew by over 25%. For the communities of West Yorkshire, especially Beeston, the emotional toll was severe. Residents felt torn between grief and suspicion. Journalists flooded the streets. Many locals faced abuse. Windows were smashed. Mosques vandalized. Yet local leaders and imams stood firm, calling for unity, condemning violence, urging understanding. The victims' families formed support networks, the July 7th Survivors Group, sharing grief and campaigning for transparency. Some survivors, scarred and disabled, became advocates for trauma care and emergency preparedness. A year later, on July 7, 2006, a national memorial service was held in Hyde Park. 52 stainless steel pillars were unveiled, each representing one victim, arranged in clusters that reflected the locations of the attacks. Relatives stood among them, many in tears. The Prime Minister bowed his head. London held 2 minutes of silence. In the years that followed, inquiries continued. Between 2010 and 2011, a full public inquest examined MI5's prior knowledge and coordination failures. The coroner's conclusion was stark. The attacks were likely unstoppable, given the intelligence at the time. No one act or omission, she wrote, could have prevented what occurred. Still, debate continued between liberty and security, faith and fear, openness and protection. By 2015, Britain's counter-extremism policy had evolved into a complex framework of surveillance, education, and online intervention. The legacy of July 7th was everywhere. In airport security lines, in classroom discussions, in the watchful cameras across the underground. By 2025, 20 years later, the attack remains a turning point. The national threat level sits at substantial. Lone actors, radicalized online, remain the greatest risk. Yet the scale of 7/7, coordinated, devastating, and intimate, has not been repeated. The memory endures in silence each July. The pillars in Hyde Park glint under the summer sun. Names are read, candles lit, families embrace. And always, the same questions linger. How do you stop hatred born in ordinary hearts? How do you defend an open city without closing it off? How do you remember without being ruled by fear? There are no final answers, only the enduring echo of that morning, the train that left Luton before dawn, and the city that woke into fire.